Oh man, do you guys remember this one? I've got to tell you, this might be one of the most predictable things in the entire history of humanity. We're talking about Jim Cramer here, and honestly, this guy is just so incredibly wrong about everything related to investing. It's like he just started learning about investing yesterday or something. I genuinely have no clue how someone can be this consistently off base about things, especially when it comes to crypto. But do you remember back in December 2022? And wow, it's hard to believe it's been over 2.5 years already when Jim Cramer went on TV and called XRP a giant con. Do you remember that moment? I'm just going to say it. That comment has aged like milk left out in the sun. Completely curdled and nasty. This whole situation is just too perfect. Here's the thing though. It was the easiest prediction ever to make. I knew that comment was going to come back to bite him because XRP actually does something useful in the real world. Sometimes it's honestly kind of adorable when people who clearly don't know the first thing about crypto decide they have these super strong, really passionate opinions about it, especially when they're shouting those opinions on national television. Those moments just crack me up, and this is a perfect example. This guy obviously had absolutely zero idea what he was talking about. He clearly hadn't done even basic research into XRP. He doesn't understand why actual businesses find XRP genuinely useful, including in real payment systems that companies are actually using every day. He's completely clueless. He has no understanding of why businesses find it valuable or how it makes certain business models possible that simply wouldn't work otherwise. But nope, he just had an opinion and decided to blurt it out on national TV. XRP is a giant con. Classic. So I want to share some of the absolutely ridiculous things this guy said so we can all have a good laugh about it. And trust me, the mockery is completely deserved. I've got a couple other things to show you too, and it's just mind-blowing how many people love to attack XRP. But here's the beautiful part. These attacks have been happening since day one of XRP's existence. Despite all of that, they can be as bitter and salty as they want. They can spread lies, stay completely uninformed, and make as many stupid public comments as their hearts desire. But guess what? They absolutely cannot stop XRP. They don't have that kind of power. XRP has already won, and that's exactly why this whole situation is so satisfying to watch. You want to know why those toxic Bitcoin maximalists just can't seem to shut up about XRP? They literally cannot stop talking about it. It's because they're genuinely threatened by what XRP represents. XRP does things that Bitcoin simply can't do, and that drives them absolutely crazy. So let me give you a little refresher here. Check out this headline from December 11th, 2022. CNBC's Jim Cramer describes XRP, Solana, Dogecoin as giant cons. I've got some examples of what he actually said, and I thought I'd read you a few choice quotes so you can see exactly what came out of his mouth. Jim Cramer on national television said, "The whole thing seems bottomless. It's just a giant con. Solana, XRP, and Dogecoin, those are all cons." Then he went on, "We put up XRP, Solana, and Dogecoin. Those are all, I believe, cons. Why don't we put up a bunch of stocks valued at the same size? I'm tired of the con." That's exactly right. So according to Jim Cramer's brilliant logic, if something has a low price, it must automatically be a con. No need to look at reasons or fundamentals. Who needs those, right? We don't need to actually research anything or understand what we're talking about. Low price equals con. Case closed. Doesn't that sound exactly like someone who's brand new to investing? They refuse to buy an asset when the price is rock bottom, but then once it shoots through the roof, suddenly they feel completely validated. Oh, look, the price is high now. Definitely not a con anymore. What an absolutely ridiculous way to approach investing. And remember, this guy is supposed to be some kind of financial guru or something. But in reality, he's nothing even close to that. Honestly, I don't think there's anyone worse at investing than Jim Cramer in the entire public eye. Seriously, can you think of any public figure who's worse at this stuff? I genuinely can't come up with anyone who does a more terrible job than this guy. It's honestly pretty hilarious. That's exactly why you see all those inverse Cramer memes all over social media. They're absolutely fantastic. I've had way too much fun with those. But looking at this guy, it's almost hard to believe he's a real person that anyone takes seriously. And check out this other gem of a quote from December 2022. Jim Cramer said, "I think you should be negative on crypto. I'm negative on XRP, Litecoin, and Doge because I haven't been able to find anyone that takes them. It's like $80 billion worth of non-Bitcoin that's destined to be wiped out."
What does he even mean by takes them?
Is he talking about using them like regular currency instead of USD or something? Because even if that's what he meant, there were already tons of places where you could use third-party services that would accept crypto and convert it behind the scenes. That stuff had been around for years and years by that point. And honestly, there's been way more of that kind of adoption as time has gone on. I'm guessing that might be what he was getting at, but even if it was, dude, what do you mean you haven't been able to find anything? Do you have internet access? Did you try using those stubby little fingers to type XRP utility or what's XRP used for into Google? Like anything remotely close to actual research? Did he bother to find out that XRP is used as a bridge currency? That's literally the most famous use case with Ripple. Did he discover that people have been tokenizing assets on the XRP ledger? Because that's been happening for over a decade now. I mean, gold was first tokenized on the XRP ledger way back around 2015 or so. That's real utility right there. That's genuinely good for XRP because XRP is actually required for that kind of stuff to happen on the ledger. And there are tons of other companies doing similar things. I mean, did he even bother reading any of the amicus briefs from the SEC versus Ripple case? Companies like TapJets were explaining how they use XRP to solve what they call the Friday night problem. You know, when all the banks are closed and traditional finance just shuts down for the weekend. If you want to charter a private jet during those times, you can actually just use crypto to make it happen. And guess what? XRP is the most commonly used cryptocurrency by TapJets. They literally accept XRP as payment. Did he not know about that? That's a real-world payment using XRP, and he couldn't find even one example like this. So at the time he made these comments, XRP was sitting at 38 cents. And his brilliant analysis was, it's all a con, I just wish it would go away. These comments have aged like milk left out in the desert sun. And honestly, he absolutely deserves to be called out for it, because it's just plain stupid. You really shouldn't have such strong opinions about something you clearly haven't done any research on, because you're going to end up looking like a complete fool. The honest approach would have been to say something like, this looks a bit fishy to me. I'm pretty skeptical about this stuff since I haven't really looked into it yet. I actually could have respected that kind of response. That would have been totally fine. I think it's actually really healthy to start investigating crypto with a serious dose of skepticism. That's exactly what I did when I first got into this space. It's not like I jumped in thinking crypto or XRP definitely made perfect sense right from the start. Not at all. But my approach was more like, okay, is there actually something real here? I don't want to get fooled by hype. Let me really dig into this and find out if this stuff actually makes sense. That's such a smart starting point. It's a completely reasonable mindset to have when you're doing genuine, good faith research. That's exactly what anyone should be doing. But now, of course, reality has come knocking, and that's exactly why I'm bringing all this up. I came across this headline from the Crypto Basic recently, and that's what inspired me to dive into this whole topic because honestly, it's just way too much fun to pass up. It really is too entertaining. The funny thing is, I had actually completely forgotten about Cramer's ridiculous comments until I saw this article. I actually made a video back then absolutely roasting Jim Cramer for those statements. I remember thinking at the time, okay, buddy, this really isn't going to end well for you. And here we are 2.5 years later, and boom, I got this perfect reminder. I had totally forgotten it was even that long ago. When I first saw the headline, I was trying to remember when he said all that stuff. Was it 2024? Maybe 2023? So I went back and did some digging, and when I realized it was from the end of 2022, I was like, oh my God, it's been forever. But check out this absolutely perfect headline. Here's how much XRP has risen since Jim Cramer called it a giant con. The price of XRP has surged nearly tenfold since CNBC host Jim Cramer dismissed it as a giant con. Oh my God, this is just too good. So let me get this straight. It's supposedly a giant con that somehow managed to persist for over 12 years now. And instead of this con finally being exposed, the bubble just keeps inflating, then it pops, and then it gets even bigger again. Where exactly does that happen with an actual scam or real con? It doesn't. When a bubble inflates around something that's genuinely a scam, it eventually gets found out. The bubble pops, and that's game over. End of story. That's exactly what happens with Ponzi schemes. Just look at Bernie Madoff. Instead, what we're seeing with XRP is more and more money flowing in over time, plus increasing real-world utility. It honestly could not be more obvious what's really going on here. But some people just love pushing these ridiculous narratives. And speaking of stupid narratives, remember this gem of a headline? This one's from June of last year. Forbes brands XRP as good-for-nothing zombie crypto. Forbes! Somebody actually writing for Forbes called XRP a zombie good-for-nothing crypto. Are you kidding me? XRP is literally one of the most useful cryptocurrencies that's ever existed in the history of this entire asset class. And it's not exactly rocket science to figure this out. Just do your research in good faith, actually seek the truth, and you can discover this stuff pretty easily. It really isn't that hard. Good for nothing? Really? Well, if that's actually the case, then why is this happening? Here's a list of 11 major firms that are looking to launch spot XRP ETFs. Why would all these incredibly reputable companies with trillions in assets under management collectively, I didn't actually add up the exact numbers, but I bet it's close, especially since Franklin Templeton alone manages $1.5 trillion. Why would they be doing this if XRP was truly worthless? Look, we're talking about firms that are already managing multi-trillion-dollar portfolios here. When you put all these companies together, that's literally trillions of dollars in assets under management. And apparently they've all been fooled by this scam. Maybe they should have just called up Jim Cramer for advice, right? Since he's supposedly the crypto expert around here, except he's really not even close. So why do you think all these major firms are jumping in? It's pretty simple. XRP is the real deal and people actually want it. The demand for XRP spot ETFs is definitely there. That's exactly why we're seeing 11 different firms trying to launch one. And here's the thing, no other altcoin even comes close to having this many firms lined up to create spot ETFs for it. Literally none. XRP is leading the pack in this space, which honestly isn't that shocking when you think about it. And then there's this other thing I just have to call out. So I came across this headline, XRP or Solana, who would get more inflows if ETFs listed together? Bitwise CEO and Bloomberg analysts weigh in. I'm not going to dive into the whole article, but there's one part I really need to highlight. James Seifert, who's actually pretty well respected in the crypto world, is basically taking shots at XRP. It's pretty obvious what he's doing. Now, don't get me wrong, he might have some serious XRP issues, but at least he's not going completely overboard like some other critics we've seen. Still, he's clearly looking down on XRP and treating everyone who holds it like we're all clueless. So let me get this straight, James. You're saying that XRP, which has stayed in the top 10 cryptocurrencies for over a decade, survived a brutal SEC lawsuit and made it through all of that, is only popular because a bunch of people don't understand crypto? Really? That's your take? This is the same guy who got famous for tracking all the developments that led to Bitcoin ETF approval. That's when his following absolutely exploded. And here's what he actually said, and I quote, "Anyone I know who doesn't really know this space at all, like couldn't tell you how a blockchain works, they like XRP. These critics are just exhausting, honestly. They can throw all the hate they want at XRP, and trust me, they definitely do. But here's what's actually hilarious. No matter how much they despise it, no matter how irrational their hatred gets, XRP just keeps growing. More adoption, more partnerships, more legitimacy, and James has to see this happening. He knows there's no other cryptocurrency with this level of ETF demand. He knows it. But apparently, if you support XRP, you just don't understand blockchain technology. Is that really your argument here, James? Because I'm not buying it. You know what I've actually discovered after being part of the XRP community since late 2017? This community is incredibly diverse. We're talking about people from every background imaginable, all walks of life coming together. And here's the thing. We're actually informed. We're not here because we've joined some weird cult like those toxic Bitcoin maximalists seem to have going on. That's not what this is about at all. We're here because XRP actually makes sense to us. It has real utility. And guess what? We've actually put in the work to research it. Imagine that. But James wants to sit there with that smug expression, acting like we're all just wandering around clueless, when the reality is that XRP holders are some of the most well-researched people in crypto. It's honestly ridiculous, like laughably ridiculous. This is exactly the kind of nonsense we've been dealing with forever. But here's what's beautiful about it. No matter how hard they try to tear down XRP, they just can't stop it. And believe me, they've been giving it their best shot since day one. I've got proof of this right here on the screen. I've actually talked about this on my channel before. Probably a couple times over the years, though it's been so long I can't even remember when I last brought it up. Chart analyst Peppa shared this screenshot, and I've pulled up the actual website myself in the past. When I saw this again, I was like, yep, this is exactly what we've been dealing with from the very beginning. Check this out. I found this fascinating post on a Bitcoin forum from way back on May 22nd, 2013. Someone named Matthew wrote something pretty eye-opening. He said, if you look at the Ripple giveaway thread, you can see that lots of people were apparently changing their original request posts from requesting XRP to claiming it's a scam. So here's what was actually happening back then. Ripple was literally giving away XRP for free in small amounts. They figured this would be a smart way to get people interested and boost adoption. Sounds reasonable, right? Well, it totally backfired. Once they started handing out all this free XRP, and once there was actually a real market for it, which kicked off in 2013 when it started trading on exchanges, they realized they were basically shooting themselves in the foot. All that free XRP was just crushing the price. Think about it. You can't just keep giving away unlimited amounts of something and expect it to maintain any value or get real adoption. They were literally destroying their own ecosystem. So they had to stop. The whole giveaway thing lasted for a really short time before they pulled the plug. But here's where it gets interesting. Matthew noticed that people who had originally posted asking for free XRP were going back and editing their posts to say XRP was a scam instead. Pretty weird behavior, right? And then Matthew drops this bombshell. Then someone with some integrity changed their post midstream the apparent astroturfing to let everyone know what's going on. So then there's this incredible post from someone called Go West, and folks, this is absolutely wild. This actually happened. He wrote, I was offered $550 to say that Ripple is a scam. Can you believe that? He got this crazy message in his Bitcoin inbox saying that some user called Trade Fortress was paying 4 people 5 Bitcoin each to trash XRP. Now, here's the kicker. Based on the math, Bitcoin was around $110 back then. So we're talking about what would be worth $600,000 today. Pretty ironic when you think about it. This Trade Fortress guy could have just dropped his hatred and bought XRP or kept his Bitcoin instead of spending it on a smear campaign. But anyway, this Trade Fortress character was literally paying 4 people 5 Bitcoin each to go edit their posts in the thread and call Ripple a scam. He even gave them the exact script to copy and paste. This was a totally organized hit job against XRP and Ripple. And here's exactly what they wanted everyone to post. Tons of people were literally copy-pasting this exact message. Ripple is a scam. Ripple is a get-rich-quick scheme for its creators. A private, for-profit company. It is not open source. It is centralized, akin to PayPal rather than Bitcoin. And then they included a link to some website that, surprise, surprise, doesn't even exist anymore. Look, we've been dealing with this garbage from day one, literally since XRP launched. Why? Because those toxic Bitcoin maximalists feel seriously threatened by XRP. And honestly, I get why. XRP actually works. Well, Bitcoin is basically the pet rock of crypto. It doesn't really do much of anything. And before anyone gets upset, I've been holding Bitcoin since 2017. So I'm not just hating here. I'm just being realistic. Bitcoin exists. People love its qualities, and I'm totally fine with that. But let's not kid ourselves about XRP being under constant attack from these people. Then this guy drops some serious truth. He points out that back in Bitcoin's early days, 2010, 2011, well into 2012, people were saying the exact same things about Bitcoin. It's a Ponzi scheme. It's a pyramid. It's a total scam. And here's the kicker. The same Bitcoin supporters who fought those accusations tooth and nail are now turning around and saying identical things about Ripple. Talk about having zero integrity whatsoever. They want what they want, period. They're sitting on these massive Bitcoin bags, always have been, so they're going to attack anything that might threaten their position. If they weren't genuinely worried about XRP, none of this coordinated nonsense would be happening. He goes on to make some great points. Ripple is led by Jed McCaleb, the guy who founded Mt. Gox and eDonkey, and Chris Larson from eLoan and Prosper. These are successful businessmen who aren't about to trash their reputations. You've got Arthur Brito, Stefan Thomas, and David Schwartz as major contributors to Ripple's development, and all of them were key players in Bitcoin's early success. OpenCoin, the company behind Ripple, has already secured venture capital from firms led by the co-founders of PayPal and Netscape. These firms don't throw money at scams. They invest in companies with genuine innovation that can deliver serious profits. So there you have it, folks. We're talking about incredibly wealthy, successful, and well-respected people who were backing this thing right from the start. Yet even back then, we still had to listen to people screaming, Ripple is a scam. And then you've got Jim Cramer, almost a full decade later, saying it's all just a con. He's literally parroting the exact same arguments from 2013. It's still just a con, according to him. What is seriously wrong with these people? I mean, they're walking around among us every day. They're driving cars on the same roads we use. Some of them actually vote in elections. And yeah, I'm pretty sure Jim Cramer votes too. God help us all. I honestly don't even know what his political beliefs are, but whatever his thought process is, I definitely don't trust it. And here we are again, my friends. You know what's absolutely beautiful about all this insanity? We get to sit here together and just laugh our asses off at how ridiculous these people are. I mean, seriously, we're watching grown adults have complete meltdowns over XRP success, and it's honestly the best entertainment money can't buy. Because guess what's going to keep happening? We're going to keep being right. XRP makes actual sense. We've done our homework, we've stuck to our guns, and now we get to watch the adoption just keep rolling in, wave after wave. And oh my God, is it driving them absolutely insane. The more XRP becomes this unstoppable force in crypto, and let's be real, it's already pretty much cemented its place, the more these haters are just going to spiral into complete rage mode. And you know what, guys? That fills my soul with pure joy. I'm not even going to pretend otherwise. Watching these bitter, miserable people lose their minds every single day because XRP just won't go away, that's my daily dose of happiness right there. They'll keep spreading their lies to their massive Twitter followings. Some of these clowns have hundreds of thousands of people hanging on their every word. They've got zero integrity, zero shame, and they'll keep pumping out garbage takes until the cows come home. But here's the thing. None of that matters anymore because we're winning. XRP is going to keep getting adopted. The price is going to reflect that reality, and these people are going to have to eat every single word they've said. So tell me in the comments, what do you think we're dealing with here? A giant con job or literally the most useful cryptocurrency that's ever been created? I know you all already know the answer to that one, but man, this whole circus just never gets old, does it? This was definitely worth making a video about, I'll tell you that much. And Jim Cramer, thanks for absolutely nothing, you complete hack. All right, guys, quick reminder, I'm not your financial advisor. Never have been, never will be. Don't go buying or selling anything because of what I'm saying here. That would be an absolutely terrible idea. And you know better than that.